Hey guys, what is happening YouTube? And thank you for tuning into Rules for Rebels and another episode of Side Hustle Tuesdays. Today is episode 62, and I think you guys are really going to enjoy today's story. I know I really enjoyed today's story. It's a creative business. It's something kind of outside the box. And one fun thing about today's business is what it started out as is not actually what it turned into. It started out as a business selling a product, transitioned into kind of offering a service or a fun activity, and now it's kind of going full circle and she's getting right back into selling the product. So it's always just fun to see kind of the evolution of a business and to see how a business changes. And that's one of the great things about side hustles, because they're so small, because of how quickly and easily they can be set up. They can actually pivot really easily and kind of change course as need be. And I think today's side hustle story really illustrates that. Today we're going to be sharing the story of a side hustler who's earning anywhere between $1,500 and $2,500 per month, making creative, kind of cute little wooden signs. So I'm sure you guys have heard about Tupperware parties, right? Back in the 1950s and 1960s, Tupperware parties were a huge thing. It was almost like the social media of that era. The woman who held the parties was in a way kind of an influencer, or was the influencer at the time. She would offer up her home and invite her friends over. They'd hang out, play games, have some drinks, enjoy some snacks together, gossip, and at the end, everybody was kind of expected to buy some Tupperware. Well, you're getting a physical good. It was almost as much about the social component and the activity as it was about what you were buying. Now, while this business model has somewhat faded away, some businesses still use it today. One modern example that comes to mind is this Lululemon brand of leggings. Well, a lot of it is sold over Facebook live shows. Some women and girls throw and attend parties in person as well. My girlfriend actually has a friend who's been doing this for a while, and while I don't really know the specifics or the ins and outs of how much she's making, she has quit her job and is doing it full time, so she must be doing fairly well. Another example from some years back is something called Tastefully Simple. I remember my mom and her friends used to go to these parties. They sold seasonings, dip mixes, different types of foods. And I remember they actually had a delicious beer bread mix with a dill dip that used to go along with it. Man, that stuff was awesome. Another example that comes to mind is sex parties. Not sure if these things are still popular today. Maybe they were more popular before the internet and sites like Adam and Eve, but I remember some of my female friends would go to these parties. One person was basically a rep for the company. They would actually make money selling the sex toys at the parties. One girl would volunteer to host the party, and she would normally get some free toys or some store credits for being the host. And she would invite all of her friends, and they would come hang out, drink, have a good time, but they were basically expected to buy something at the end of the evening. This kind of reminds me of another twist on this business. If you guys remember the movie Old School, when the wives were getting together and they bring Andy Dick in to host a blowjob party, and then Will Ferrell is spying on him through the window and comes inside and tries to attack Andy Dick because he thinks his wife's cheating on him, and he winds up getting beat down by Andy Dick. Yeah, that's another twist on this business, but using a service business model, since no product was being sold, but something was being taught. In a way, that's what today's side hustler's business is. Over the past few years, social classes have become kind of a big thing. Either cooking classes, pottery classes, painting classes, where they serve wine and cheese. You get to go try an activity, you get to learn something, and have some cocktails and be social while doing it. And that's essentially what today's side hustler's business is. Today we're going to be talking about her business, how she got the idea, how she went about starting it, as well as what she's earning. So Abby Rockapori hails from Connecticut. She's an experienced side hustler as well. After she dropped out of college, she started an eco-friendly cleaning business with a friend. And while the business did pretty well, she wasn't passionate about it, and it was a bit more than she could handle at the time, so she wound up selling her share in the business to her sister and moved on. She decided to go back to school, and while going to school, she was working retail and taking night classes. After graduating, she began substitute teaching and also began exploring the idea of again starting another side hustle. Now, I don't want to get too far off topic, but oftentimes the type of day job that you have plays a big role in what type of side hustles you can start. When I started my e-commerce business, as well as blogging and affiliate marketing, and really just all types of online hustles, I was working a retail job after college. It wasn't a career, it wasn't a great job, but one of the positive things about it was because it was kind of a blow-off job, it left me a lot of time, and I still had a lot of energy after work to throw myself into other hustles, whereas if I had been working at a quote-unquote career, I may have gotten home from work later every day. I may have been exhausted when I got home, or I may have even had work that I had to take home with me. And if that had been the case, I may have never gotten my side hustle off the ground and turned it into a business. If you're entrepreneurial minded and want to start something on the side, substitute teaching can be a great job. After college, I looked into subbing. I wound up finding another job and didn't go into it. But also my father, who just recently retired, is actually substituting right now. Every morning he wakes up, he calls into some hotline, he hears the jobs for the day, and he can basically decide if he wants to take one or if he wants to, not work. For someone launching a business, this would be an ideal job to have. They pay pretty decent. In my state, in my district, the pay is anywhere from $120 per day to $150 per day, which is actually pretty respectable. Subs are typically more like babysitters, so after getting the kids started on a lesson plan or popping in a movie, you can probably do some of your own work between, during the classes. You get out early, and you probably aren't too exhausted at the end of the day, as the job isn't that taxing. And because you can pick and choose when you work, if you have a business, things that need to get done, you can focus on those. If you're not busy or don't have anything going on, you can go in and earn some money. So substitute teaching could be an awesome job for entrepreneurs looking to have a job and earn some money while still putting their main focus on the side hustle. One other thing to add, in most states, you don't need to be an education major or even have any training as a teacher to sub. In most areas, you simply have to have a bachelor's degree in anything, and you can go get on a substitute teacher list. Anyhow, let's get back to the story. I think in large part because of her subbing, she had plenty of time and energy to devote to a side hustle. Abby's friend Rachel noticed someone uploaded an artsy sign to Facebook one day, and she told Abby, hey, maybe you can turn this into a business. With a bit more encouragement from her husband, Abby decided to do it. The process of making signs isn't that complicated, although it can be a bit tedious. Abby began by visiting a local lumberyard. She knew the owner, so he got her set up with some wood to make signs, and all it cost her was a case of beer, because it was a friend of hers. She also needed some wooden pallets for additional wood. She knew another business owner who had some spare pallets, so she got those as well. And again, all it cost her was a case of beer. Apparently in the lumber business, beer is the currency of choice. To get ideas and motivation for the signs, she would scour Pinterest and also look at various inspirational quotes on Google Images. To make the actual stencils for the signs, she bought a machine called the Silhouette Cameo on Amazon. If you're curious about it, you can YouTube it, and they show you examples of how it works. I've seen a lot of Etsy sellers using these and talking about them. And it's some kind of machine that cuts out custom stencils that you can then use for crafts. All in all, Abby's startup costs were only around $1,200. Now, Abby normally wouldn't have had that kind of money to throw into a startup. However, she had been saving for the previous year to take a trip with her husband, and with his encouragement, he told her to buy the machine and that they would forego the vacation, and told her to start her side hustle instead of taking the trip. And I think that's another important reason for your side hustles and also entrepreneurship, to have a supportive spouse or significant other who understands your mission and your passion. Had Abby not had this, she probably would have never gotten this side hustle off the ground. She decided to call the business Pinot and Pallet because people would drink wine and kind of socialize while making the signs, and the signs were often made out of pallet wood. Now, initially the idea was to make signs and sell signs. She reached out to a local knick-knack shop, and she looked into the idea of doing a holiday pop-up store at a local outlet mall. She also looked into craft fairs. However, she soon found that the best strategy was what she started out as, which was doing a Pinot and Pallet, doing educational classes, getting people together to drink wine, and she would teach them how to make signs. Remember how earlier we talked about those Tupperware parties? Using those Tupperware parties as inspiration, as well as noticing the increasing popularity of wine and cheese type classes, she decided to provide a similar experience. Abby attends parties where she teaches people how to make their own signs. A host puts on the party. Abby shows up as the expert and teacher, and she also provides the supplies. She also shows up with normally about 6 to 8 stencils that people can choose from, and for some parties she'll even take custom requests where she'll make custom stencils just for that party. The parties have a 10-person minimum, and she charges $40 per person, so she never makes less than $400 per evening, and the classes typically just run a couple hours in the evenings. During each event, she takes photos, and after she posts the photos on Facebook and social media, and she's found that after each party post, it tends to lead to 3 or more party bookings. So it's a business that kind of markets itself. She also gets a lot of word-of-mouth referrals as well. Abby has a good thing going holding these classes, and she's now thinking about expanding into making signs for businesses, which is actually what the business idea actually started out as before it transformed into a class format. She's currently making between $1,500 and $2,500 per month, and the business is only continuing to grow. Abby said the extra money's great. She gets to get out there and meet new people. She's making money and doing something that she enjoys and doing something that's creative, so that's an added bonus as well. I really liked Abby's story. I think it's always fun. It's always fun to see how ideas come about in unexpected ways, and it's interesting to see how when you start doing something, it isn't always what your business winds up transitioning into. That's one of the fun things about side hustles. Because they're small and nimble, you can change direction and turn on a dime if an opportunity presents itself. The key to side hustling is keeping the risk low, taking action, and moving quickly. That way, if something doesn't work out, you simply chalk it up to a loss, which you aren't out too much, and you move on to the next thing. Anyhow, I thought that this was a different and interesting story. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I know I did. And until next time, this is Rules for Rebels and Side Hustle Tuesdays, signing out.